Malignant is a 2021 supernatural horror film directed by James Wan. It stars Annabelle Wallis, Maddie Housen, George Young, Miko Brianna White, hopefully I'm saying her name right, Jacqueline McKenzie, among others. It was the first time Wan has directed a horror film since 2016's The Conjuring 2. Despite not doing too well at the box office, it still managed to receive some high critical acclaim. So, let's dive right in. The premise of this film revolves around a young woman named Madison Mitchell, played by Wallace, who is experiencing strange dreams of an ominous figure who commits horrific acts of murder in them. The first dream she has involves the killer going after her abusive husband, Derek, played by Jake Abel. But when Derek appears dead in real life and Madison learns more hidden secrets about herself, she finds that she might have more of a startling connection with the killer than originally conceived. I really love how deep this premise truly goes, given that a lot of its strength comes from how fleshed out these characters truly are. You see, Madison being adopted and the strange connection she has with the killer play a big part in this movie, and her character is built up well enough to make you curious as to what her connection really is. The film starts out as a great suspense mystery / horror that will keep you guessing, but then when it finally builds into a full-on supernatural horror, holy shit, is it off the wall insane. There are so many scenes in this film that I honestly never thought I'd see in a serious horror film like this one, and I'm honestly not disappointed that they were in there. For starters, there's a death scene involving a chair. A fucking chair. Like I said, the first half of the movie is meant to keep you on edge and wondering what will happen next, but this right here is the perfect climax, builds up to the perfect climax, given that only is it the most exciting part of the film, but the first half actually built up to it in a satisfying way, since it answers questions that were brought up in the first half of the movie. I give premise a B+. The story in some areas goes absolutely nuts at times, but I really like how it didn't take itself too seriously. It's actually cool to see a horror film as dark as this one and still be able to have some fun laid-back action moments, and do them in a way that works very well. In fact, I think the laid-back scenes were an intentional way to calm our nerves, since the film does get surprisingly dark despite being a horror film, especially with all the themes surrounding miscarriage and domestic abuse. Next is acting. I feel like one of the best aspects of the acting in this movie is just how much of a toll the soul truly seems to be having on Annabelle Wallis' character. You really do feel bad for her because of all the shit that she's being forced to deal with. Maybe she could have shown a little more panic in some areas as opposed to fear, especially given that a lot of the evidence found in the kills point to her as a killer. But I guess that's because I personally would be a lot more, panicked if placed in a situation like that. But I don't know. But when it came to fear, she didn't do a bad job at all. She managed to convey a good enough sense of terror that didn't make me sympathize with her in some areas. So I think the acting gets a lot of points for making me care for an already very well fleshed character even more, and also selling the horror of the film overall, given that she's being exposed to all this horrible shit, so the fear she exhibits definitely helps to sell it more. The rest of the characters also did a surprisingly decent job. There wasn't one moment that felt forced or like it was trying too hard. In fact, all of the cast really did contribute to the film in such a big way. Hell, even some of the prisoners gave such amazing performances despite having such small roles. I give acting an A. It was quite possibly one of the main highlights of the film, but because of how much it ended up helping it. Finally, directing. I think one of my favorite aspects of James Wan's direction is just how far, his movies go. I don't mean in terms of risks they take, although he did take a lot of risks, especially with Saw. I just mean how much goes into the storylines. You see, Saw isn't just about one killer and two guys in a room. It also focuses on two detectives trying all that they have to track this killer and finally bring him to justice. While at the same time, the killer isn't the only person who is behind it. You see what I mean? His films rely heavily on plot twists and unexpected turns, and I feel that definitely does give them more life simply because of how real that makes the world of his films. This film is nothing short of any of that. On the surface, this film seems to be about an imaginary friend slowly taking on more human characteristics, but then as you watch, you figure out that there's a lot more to this imaginary friend than originally perceived. And the way Wan builds everything up is so satisfying, given that it actually does all conclude in a surprisingly explosive way. As I might have said before, the film doesn't get too off the wall at first. In fact, it starts out like any, other psychological horror film similar to this, but then it quickly climaxes into something so much more. I give directing an A+. Definitely handled in a very refreshing way. Overall, Malignant is an edge-of-your-seat thrill ride that will startle you in some areas, but will definitely be something you'll have a lot of fun with because of how off the wall it can truly get. This is a James Wan horror film like no other, and definitely has to be seen to be believed. I give Malignant an A-. It was definitely the most entertaining horror film in recent years. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.